That brings us to our next topic: the traditional path to financial poverty. Go to school, get a job, buy a house, retire at 65. Sounds like success, right? Then why are so many people broke? We will expose the financial trap hidden inside society's proven path to success. From student loans to credit card debt, home ownership myths, and paycheck to paycheck cycles. We're asking, is the system broken or was it never meant to work for you in the first place? Let's dive into
Mm,
that.
that's like a great. I mean, great ending to the intro. That was good. That was good because you hit the nail on the head. This is a topic that I've personally been interested in, and I've been studying and researching my whole adult life because it was a question that I had for myself growing up. Like, how do you how do you become successful? Because in my mind, success meant freedom. It didn't necessarily mean having a bunch of money. It just meant freedom. So money is a tool, not the outcome.
Right.
So my thing was like freedom. It wasn't necessarily money. But then what I began to realize was that, to your point, everybody that was living the life that we are told that we're supposed to be lived, the American dream at the end of the day, those people, when I was growing up, always seemed to be the ones who had the most problems.
Yeah.
Like they was always struggling, they never had enough, nothing was ever enough.
Yeah.
And they was always trying to go do something else or just looking for some hustle, willing to take a penitentiary chance, as we like to call them. It was a whole bunch of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I had the best of both worlds in that. I had my grandparents, so my grandfather he retired the year I was born, so I saw him and my granny living their life, and
Mm-hmm.
but they were more
Yeah,
entrepreneurial.
they were different. They didn't
Yeah,
go
they were
with
different.
the system
Now they
like
still did the what the system did. They just did one thing differently than most people.
what's that?
They didn't play it safe.
Good. That's good. I'm glad you
They
said
took
that.
advantage of opportunities,
Good.
and and the opportunity that they specifically took advantage of was the opportunity to be financially literate and to invest their money.
Right.
That was the opportunity that they took advantage of. Because
Right.
again, my grandfather retired from the post office, which is a regular job like most people have,
Mm-hmm.
and my granny, she was basically administrative services for the LA County Sheriff, which is a regular job, civil service job like most people have. But again, they were able to get ahead because they weren't trying to play it safe.
And that's the key. Like you can't play it safe and just go with the norm
Hmm.
because the norm isn't designed for us in the first place.
Yes.
The norm isn't designed for us to have financial freedom
Hmm.
or to have lavish lifestyles or just experience the grander things of
The
life,
finer things of
the
life,
finer
right?
things.
Right,
the
right.
the, the system is to keep you on the schedule, on the cycle as a worker bee.
Yep.
Busy, 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 buzz, 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 as a bee does. And then you look up, you don't went to school for 12 years.
Yep.
Then
6 figures in debt.
6 figures in debt from school. Then you go get a house, right? You in debt to the house because you got to take out a loan for the house, so now you're paying the mortgage.
Hmm.
Your payments on the student loans,
Hmm.
like I have some people, like I was blessed to have my student loans forgiven, and I'm glad they did because I don't know if I would even pay them that shit back because it's just ridiculous. But I have a friend of mine and one of my cousins, and a friend of mine, she told me she pays about $500 a month
Hmm.
towards student loans. My cousin, she said she been paying like $450 a month.
Hmm.
Some people pay like about $600 a
Hmm.
month, and all that isn't even going to the principal.
Most
Most
of
of
it is
that,
not going to
right?
principal.
Most of it's
It's going
going
to
to
interest.
interest,
Yeah.
and it's just
But
crazy.
that's the trap that we unknowingly put ourselves in.
It's crazy that they are allowed to do this to us and have us like pigeonholed in these mind frames and
These
economic
paradigms, right?
economic hold strongholds
Mm-hmm.
where we can't get above.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're forced to live paycheck to paycheck,
Mm-hmm.
and then they say, okay, get credit. Here go credit card. You've been
Just
paying
dig
your
in the
student
deeper
loan,
hole.
and it's like, hey, you know, I seen something where they said it was an Indian guy. He said the average Indian makes $1 to spend 20 cents. America makes $1 to spend $2.
Yeah,
You know,
I definitely
you know
see
what I'm
where
saying?
I'm picking up what he's putting down.
Yeah. So it was like our whole mindset is just ass backwards when it comes
And it
to
really is ass backwards. And to prove it, we don't need a new iPhone every year.
no.
We don't need the new Camaro. You know, the every year is something new. Every time you call the cable company, oh, we got the new router out. What's wrong with the other one? Oh, it's just outdated. But that's of the way. But the system is designed to do that. But we just not conscious of that. We looking at it as just like, because again, we've been programmed to be consumers at
Oh
the end
yeah,
of the
we
day.
got to be up on
So we gotta
everything.
have the nice things to, because again, our American culture basically tells us that in order to be successful, you got to demonstrate it with what you can buy.
Yeah,
You know what I
and
mean?
what you have
And what you
makes you
have
defines who
defines
you
your,
are.
your status and your class. So if you can make the money to live at a house on the hill in the gated community, and you can buy luxury vehicles, and you're successful. And then those people feel successful, and to the point where then they go out into the real world and I have my Louis Vuitton this, or my Escalade that, or my luxury this, or I went to Turk, like whatever it is, you know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? They start to, but again, that's just them not realizing that you're just a pawn in their game,
Yeah,
like a pawn, not a king or a queen or a boss. You're a pawn.
and the system has its place. Like you can operate in the system, but like you said with your grandparents, they had the system going on, but they in addition to
Mm-hmm.
knew how to take chances, knew how to make investments, knew how to take a risk,
Mm-hmm.
and foreseeing something bigger and better on the
They,
horizon.
my granny, she always tells me that it was a Jewish lady that put them on to their first properties,
Mm.
because where they lived at the time. Because again, my grandfather's vision was just to own property. Like when he came from the South, that was what he always said. It was like my vision was just to own some property, so that when I invited my dad out west, I would be able to show him, what I had done.
Hmm.
That was it. And then, like I said, with that vision, they moved forward. He found his bride. I mean, he found his bride, my granny, and then they worked together. They collaborated together because growing up, I always thought that it was the Pawpaw was the band was the leader of the band, but come to find out, it was actually Granny who was more I would just say more stable one. So
Hmm.
it's like my grandfather, he had the ideas, but my granny, she had the stability in that. She just was more of a saver than he was.
I had a question about your grandparents
Talk to me.
today. It came across my mind. Because I put
I was gonna say something.
I put my Arkansas hat on.
Representing the old Magnolia.
Magnolia. So how often did they live in the house in Arkansas? Was that a house that they lived in for a long period of time?
That is our vacation home.
Oh, excuse. I was thinking about that. Like, so how long did they live there for? 10 years, 15 years?
That was only our vacation
Was that where
residence.
Auntie Rhonda was raised, or was that they moved up here when she was 7?
So we built that because every summer my grandparents would drive from California to go visit her parents, my granny's mother and father, who are still living at the time. That was what they ever did every summer.
Shout out to Emerson, right?
Shout out to Emerson. They drove from Los Angeles to Emerson every year, but eventually, and this was like well after my grandfather and my granny like had it. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like this is well after they had it.
Okay.
Had it as far as like they stacks was up.
Hmm.
They had that quote unquote bag. But my grandfather, the way he tells the story was just like, yeah, we will go, back to go visit her family every summer, and all my other relatives, the Uncle Willie's, Uncle
Hmm.
Norris's, and all the other uncles and aunts who since passed, we would all come down there. So it would be like, so my granny, my great grandfather and grandmother, they had 9 kids, and so it'd be like 7 of the kids plus all their kids and their grandkids. So it could be like 30 of us in a
Hmm.
2 bedroom, no, one, to it was 30 of us for a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bathroom house in Emerson at the house at the house we went to. So I guess one of them summers, my grandfather had enough of it, and he was like, "You know what? We need to buy our own."
You talking about at your grandmother's mother's house?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When we took you over there on 44,
Mm-hmm.
but on 46, I should say. But at some point, my grandfather was like, "Nah, we need to build our own house. Like we need our own space when we come down here, since we know we're gonna be coming down here." So then, in the 90s, I think the early 90s, they built the house.
Wow.
And I remember getting the
like just stop right there. Like so, in the early 90s, they built a house from the ground up.
Yeah.
You know, that's not went and rented a house.
But here's as you said, and I thought about it. I remember when they got like the home planning books, and I remember the layout that they actually built was one of the ones I remember saying like, I like this one.
Oh wow, that's cool.
I like this layout because again, it was a family affair. You know, we just going through the books.
Yeah.
But now that I think about it, the one that I at least me, I remember saying the layout of the house that you've been to. I remember saying like, yeah, I like this house. I like this plan. I like this floor plan. It has 5 bedrooms. It has 3 bathrooms. It has, I like this one. And that's the one they did eventually end up building. But again, to bring it back home, the only reason why they was able to do that is because they didn't play it safe.
Yeah.
They focused on taking advantage of opportunities.
And they had a little more insight or education, where they came from, a Jewish woman or
that was part of that opportunity though, which is I'm realizing most people in our community don't take advantage of, which is networking
conversations
with people outside of your culture
and listening
right. Yeah. Taking their wisdom to heed and applying it
right.
Which is what my grandparents did. And fast forward 30, 40, 50 years later, we've been able to build up the family business to they built up the family business to what it is now. To where now, it's just now on us, the next generations, just to keep it and maintain it. Right. And ideally expand upon it to make it bigger and better. Right. For the future generations.
Yeah. So these generations that are coming up now, and I think they understand it.
They do.
They get it. They see that there's no future. They see that that's a dead end to do this whole college for 4 to 8 years and come out and get this job. Number one, the degrees don't hold that much weight these days. The jobs aren't there that support the degrees that they're offering. Yep. And the money is being made in something that they're not even teaching you in college.
That part. And I think that's what makes traditional formal education a scam to me. It's not education itself. Right.
It's not evolving with the times.
Exactly.
So there should be more classes now about podcasts and
AI,
online AI, and what's the phrase for when you selling stuff? What you say?
Sales.
But online. You call it something marketing.
Oh, digital marketing?
Yeah.
So, and actually, I'm glad you say that, because case in point, when the education and the curriculums are taking too long to be updated. I remember I graduated from college in 2007, and that was right when things like YouTube and Facebook was in its infancy. Yeah. Instagram hadn't even came out yet.
Nope.
It's like we had MySpace and Black Planet. It was Black Planet, then it was MySpace, then it was Facebook. That's what I remember. Then it was like YouTube and stuff. But I'm saying that to say that back then, you had to literally, since digital marketing, internet marketing was still pretty much in its infancy. I remember like the information wasn't widely available. There was no collegiate programs. There was nothing about digital marketing. Nothing like nothing about internet marketing, digital marketing. Anything you wanted to learn about that, you had to like go do it on your own. So informal education, not formal education. Then fast forward, a decade and a half, let's just say 2015 forward, I start noticing billboards from schools like UCLA and USC promoting digital marketing degrees. But it was like, y'all 15 years too behind. Right. Like, this industry's been popping for
the past 15 years.
You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all just now catching on to this. But again, up until then, all them 15 years, I remember people still being of the thought that the internet was a child's toy.
Mm-hmm.
I still remember that. People didn't even take it seriously. It was like it was a fad to most people.
It was. It was. It was an extra curriculum thing where
it wasn't real.
It was obsolete. You could take it serious or not. The internet was just something for you to play on.
Mm-hmm.
It was never presented.
That was literally it. Something to play on.
It was never presented, because
as a business tool.
I'm a little bit older than you, so I remember.
Right.
I remember when there was no internet at all.
Right. Right.
And so when our definition of computer was playing
DOS,
playing Oregon Trail.
Yeah, facts. I remember that on the old DOS. You got the lower, you got C:// Windows.exe.
So that made our generation like fuck this computer shit, because it was
too much. Right. Too much.
And then it became the internet and stuff came around, and then the Black Planet and the MySpace, and then it still became fun. It was like a fun thing. It wasn't nothing that you could ever think to take serious. And I think if it was presented that way, more people in our generations would have applied themselves, and maybe we will probably be in a better state now.
So going back to what I said in the beginning, the difference between playing it safe and taking advantage of opportunities.
Right.
The people who took advantage of the infancy of the internet are now the Mark Zuckerberg.
Yes, they are.
The Jeff Bezos.
Yes, they are. That's why you see a lot of them
Elon Musk
are young, and they just like regular like people that just took. So anytime there's a change, there's always a chance.
Always an opportunity.
That's why we talk about jumping on this AI train.
Yep.
Because that's coming, and
And shouts out to the Earn Your Leisure, Rashad and Bilal and Ian. They actually just did an episode where they were saying that we as in Americans of African descent, we're losing out on the AI opportunity. Right. We're losing out on the AI arms race because we're not taking advantage of the opportunity.
Right.
So that's specifically now our community. That's the main reason why we lose. Yeah. It's because we don't take advantage of the opportunities.
We ain't played no video.
I was just about to say that. So let's run that one clip just to show what inspired the topic, which was what my man doing AI.
I recently saw a bunch of creators ask AI a question, and I wasn't sure if it was staged, so I did it myself, and I'll show you the result. The question they supposedly asked was, how do you keep someone financially trapped or poor after they do everything that society tells them to do? I thought this was interesting, so I specifically asked, quote, how can someone become financially trapped or poor after doing what society tells them to do? I got 7 things to keep someone trapped in middle-class poverty. It says, quote, society often pushes a standard playbook for success. Go to school, get good grades, attend college, land a stable job, buy a house, and save for retirement. Don't get me wrong, that formula works for many people, but there are some flaws where people can fall through the cracks. Number 1, education and student debt. Your parents or grandparents probably said that, college is the golden ticket, like it says here, but tuition costs have skyrocketed over 140% over the last 20 years. And you know why? It's because of your parents and grandparents, because they're willing to pay any price and go to any lengths for you to get a college degree. It doesn't matter how much you pay, it's going to be worth it. The fact that there is no limit or criteria to determine a budget for education is a big red flag. Like it says below, quote, people borrow heavily thinking it's an investment, only to graduate with $30,000 to $100,000 in debt and a job that pays $40,000 a year if they're lucky. It's true, it's almost impossible to escape poverty or middle-class poverty when you have college payments that eat up a quarter of your pay. Number 2, job market misalignment. You're told that any college degree will do, but that is definitely not true. Because of the giant marketing machine of which your parents, grandparents, and teachers are a part of, quote, many fields don't translate to high-paying jobs. Meanwhile, trades like plumbing or welding, which society often downplays, can out-earn white-collar gigs. Not saying that trades are perfect, just saying that it's not always college. The third one is 100% true. I've seen this happen. Housing pressure. Quote, buy a house, it's an investment. The problem is it is not an investment. It is a consumer product. It is a consumption item. Just like student loans, saying that it's an investment and being willing to pay any price is a good way to go nowhere fast. Another problem here is, quote, median U.S. home price hits $400,000 in 2024 while wages stagnate, median household income around $74,000. There is no reason for home prices to be correlated with income. A primary residence is a consumer product. It is consumption. It's not an investment. It is not a business that sells a product or service and generates profit for shareholders. As a consumption item, it is correlated with wealth. The wealthier someone becomes, the more housing they can afford. There's a reason why 66% of people own homes, but only 1% are actually rich. And renting's not a solution. No one said renting was a solution. Renting is cheaper, but it doesn't solve all the problems. Shelter is an expense that you need to minimize regardless of whether you buy or rent. And investing is something you need to do whether you buy or rent. If you have nothing left over to invest after you buy or rent, you're going to have problems. 4, consumerism and lifestyle creep. Quote, society equates success with stuff, cars, gadgets, vacations. Always remember that the rich can pretend to be poor longer than the poor can pretend to be rich. If you can see what someone is buying, I can guarantee you they're not getting richer because that money has been spent and it is not invested. Poor people literally buy luxury items to impress other poor people. Buying a luxury car to drive to your 9 to 5 is not a flex. Keeping up with the Joneses and status is a huge emotional trigger. It is a big money maker under capitalism. Try and avoid it if you can. 5 is a huge one. Lack of financial education. Don't know how to solve this one. There is no incentive for teachers to teach you how to become financially literate. The Board of Education will not teach you how to become financially literate. It is beside the point. Remember, the education system is designed to create workers to drive the economy. That means you need to work 40 hours a week until you die in order to grow GDP. Education system is not designed for you to learn how to invest and then live off passive income for the rest of your life. That would destroy the economy. That is not the point. Because of numbers 1 to 5, many people cannot withstand number 6, economic shocks, recession, emergencies. Half of Americans can't even cover $1,000. Number 7 is related to number 5, financial education. Quote, work hard, save in your 401k, retire at 65. For Canadians, that's the RSP or TFSA. Problem is, no one teaches you how to use these instruments. What do I invest in? How do I use them? When do I withdraw? How much do I put in? When do I put it in? Very interesting exercise. Not very surprising, but I hope you enjoyed it. Learn the lessons about money that no one's going to tell you. Download my free newsletter linked off the bio. Good luck. Take care.
All right, so he gave it to you, plain as he, it's a trap.
And just to make sure that he wasn't jigging us, I did it myself on my own chat open AI. I asked my chat GPT the same question, and I got the same response. So it wasn't a fad.
I encourage you to do the same thing.
Yeah, do it for yourself.
Type in your AI, whoever you have, whether it's DeepSeek or Bing or Chat GPT or see what they say.
Gronk.
Right.
And just see what it says. It's literally the question that he asks. Just put that same question into whatever AI platform that you want to use and see what it says. And I'm pretty sure you're gonna get the same responses because, like he said, he was interested. I was intrigued, and I was interested too. And I wanted to fact check it myself, so I did it, and I got the same responses. And after I read that, it just like I felt like my whole life came crashing down on me because I was like, this is the answer I have been looking for because for 20 years, this is what I've been seeing. I didn't necessarily have the words myself to articulate it for these last 20 years, but unbeknownst to me, like that was a question I had been trying to answer for the last 20 years.
Yeah,
personally.
And it makes sense.
Makes perfect sense.
This whole game plan they got makes sense.
The playbook, as he said.
Look, check this out. So we'll put you in schools that teach you how to be a worker. Mm-hmm. We're not teaching you how to be critical thinkers, entrepreneurs, right. Or nothing like that. We're teaching you how to be workers. So you work, you go to school 12 years, then you go to school for another 4 years that you pay for those the latter 4.
And in some cases, depending upon your area, they want you to pay for the Catholic
school. Yep. Because I was in Catholic school till 7th grade, and my mom had to pay for that for sure. Then you get to college, and then you go into your first big amount of debt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you get these student loans.
Yep.
All right, so that's the first hook they got on.
And
you.
then they tell you it's okay to get into debt because this is an investment in your future.
Yeah, you're gonna graduate with a degree, and you're gonna make 6 figures.
You're gonna be able to get a good
you're gonna
job.
get a good job.
Don't even worry about this loan payment.
A good job where you can work for a corporate company and only get a 3% raise every year. You know,
it'll be well worth it.
It'll be well worth it. So they get you hooked in that. So mine, all along while you doing this, all right, I'm gonna work the job, climb the corporate ladder, boom, boom, boom. So now you gotta eat, you gotta eat and survive, right? So they say we're gonna make the food and stuff here not the healthiest, not the best. So therefore, we could limit your lifespan because you can't, because we promised to give you Social Security at the end, because that's supposed to be, Social Security is supposed to be the bow or the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Yeah. You do this. You go to school. You go get a job, buy a house, and retire and collect your Social Security, and you can sit back and cross your legs and drink lemonade, make a Mai Tai, like, I done did it.
I done did it, right.
I done did it. I'm succeeded. But if the life expectancy is, especially for our community, if our life expectancy is under 70,
and a retirement age is 65,
they raised it to 67.
Oh, now so basically they're saying we got 3 years of retirement.
You got you work 65 years to get 3 years.
Like, think about that.
That even come on.
You work. That's a good way of putting it. But again, we do that because we think that that's the path to success, because that's what they're telling us is the path to success.
Right, because we
believe it hook, line, and sinker.
Because we've been conditioned to listen,
socialize
to these means. Because they have things implemented like the Bible that tell you will have the poor with you always, and it kind of conditions and makes you content with being in a certain less than.
The meek shall inherit the earth.
The meek shall inherit. Right, what they say of the color purple, you better bash Mr. in the head and think about heaven lately. Like that's, don't worry about all that. Don't worry about no pie in the sky. You got to deal with the situation at hand.
Or like Muhammad Ali used to say, like they want our people praying up to this God in the sky where they enjoy heaven on earth.
They enjoy everything right here and right now. and that was one of the things that just blew my mind. Like, because I have a lot of different friends of a lot of ethnicities and economic status, and I've seen the lifestyles of people. I'm talking to one of my co-producers on this project today. He just got a $1,300 camera. He needs to know what to do with this extra $800 that might be going to something else. And it's
right.
These are things, that's great for him. No slight to him, but his normal experience, like most people don't have that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, that's not normal. That's not normal, and our upbringing. It's not a bad thing. It's a great thing, and I love him for it, and I got his back 100%. But it just shows you the dynamics of lifestyles and things that people are afforded to, and he's able to live like that because his parents were able to plan and
they took advantage of some opportunities.
They took advantage of the opportunities. Yes. Now, granted, we don't know of all the opportunities, and maybe that's why we get stuck behind the 8 ball. But still, there's a whole different way of life that some people live compared to the way some others live. And it's totally devastating to know, and that's what clicked in my head. I was like, I do not want to go through this life and not live or experience the better side of life, to say to speak, the life that's comfortable and rewarding, and you know what I'm saying, not no fairy tale that I see on TV. So what I had to do, once I got older and started putting 2 and 2 together, I had to make these risks. I had to buy these insurance policies. I had to invest in these stocks. I had to get a managed.
No. You didn't. It wasn't risk. You took advantage of some opportunities.
Yeah. The opportunities I had.
You didn't play it safe.
I had to. When
the stock market can go down.
Yeah, it can go down. I had to invest in a managed money market account. I had to start finding out what are these other people doing, and then I had to follow suit.
Yeah,
And anytime I got a large sum of money, no, everybody looked. I drive a K5, and they be like, "Well, why you drive that car?" I was like, "I could drive a GLE. That's the car that I want." You know what I mean? But at what expense? My car is good. It's brand new.
Right.
It ain't had no
Right,
miles on
right,
it,
right,
or
right.
whatever the case may be. Oh well, you're not staying in the hills. You're not staying in whatever the case may be. Like I could, but no, it's not feasible.
It's not feasible.
Because that's the mistake that we make. We
It's not
get
right. It's not sustainable
It's
long
not
term.
sustainable. So we'll get money and just think that it has to go out the door, but it needs to be strategically placed so that your money is making money for you at all times, even when you're sleeping. You know what I'm saying?
So the next clip we actually go play, it actually talks about that problem.
This is the main cause of poverty. The main cause of poverty or financial struggle is fear and ignorance, not the economy or the government or the rich. It's self-inflicted fear and ignorance that keep people trapped. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. By not giving in to your emotions, you are able to delay your reactions and think. That is important. We will always have emotions of fear and greed. From here on in, it's imperative for you to use those emotions to your advantage, and for the long term, to not let your emotions control your thinking. Most people use fear and greed against themselves. That's the start of ignorance. Most people live their lives chasing paychecks, pay raises, and job security because of the emotions of desire and fear, not really questioning where those emotion-driven thoughts are leading them. It's just like the picture of a donkey dragging a cart with its owner dangling a carrot just in front of its nose. The donkey's owner may be going where he wants to, but the donkey is chasing an illusion. Tomorrow there will only be another carrot for the donkey. Follow for more.
So, like everyone's, I'm sure, read that book, Rich Dad
Rich
Poor
Dad.
Dad.
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, that was the first book that changed my whole mindset about my ability to even pursue quote unquote financial freedom. Before reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, I had never heard the term.
Yeah.
And I got that book for my birthday from my auntie, my second year in college.
Cool.
So it wasn't until my second year of college that I had even heard the term financial freedom. Learned the term assets, and it was literally Rich Dad Poor Dad that put me on the path that really made me start to realize, like, wait a minute, like, I don't think that they telling us everything.
No way.
They telling us something, but I don't think they telling us everything.
Right.
So, like I said, I know the playbook that they gave me, but the guys and the girls, the men and the women that I actually see living the type of lifestyle that I believe I want to live for myself, they didn't follow this playbook. You know what I'm saying? Like, they did something outside of the play. You know what I mean? They did something outside of the norm. And so that's what made me start realizing, like, man, like, I got to figure this out.
See, what people have to understand is, this might ruffle some feathers. America was founded on free labor.
Yes.
America has made its position in the world because we're the only country that was able to be a thriving force in the world based on free labor. We didn't have to pay for it.
Yep.
So therefore, that's why they fought so hard to keep
the institution
of slavery and all those different
and why they created the Jim Crow laws.
That's why they fought so hard, because that would have been a huge economic change and shift. And so so part of that change, you got to replace the free labor with something.
Cheap labor,
or people dumb enough to still do the shit that's going to render the same product. So
or you can just create laws, like you said. Oh, you gotta if you don't have a job, you're going to prison.
Right.
But it's like, well, y'all just turned them out. Y'all know they ain't got no job.
Right.
Where you going to prison?
Right. But even now, where that's not necessarily the case, but what's more so is the case is the system that we're talking about. They created the system where you willingly participate without knowing by keeping your education limited
Yep.
and keeping your nutrition and your healthy mindset,
Yep.
keeping all
Yep.
that limited and
Yep.
attacked,
Underdeveloped.
underdeveloped,
Yep.
where you're not, the household,
Yep.
the family structures, like we talking
Keeping us
about.
divided.
Yeah, all right, let's do that. That'll keep them in a disarray
Mm-hmm.
where all they know is what they have, and if we ain't give, and if all they have is what we give them, and we ain't give them nothing but half truths, lies, and bullshit and diabetes,
Yep.
of course, what else they gonna come out with? You know what I'm saying? So therefore, we have to take it amongst ourselves, not to be envious of anyone else, not to be jealous, but just to sit back and to deduce what it is that you want for your life,
Yeah.
and how do you facilitate that for your life. Like, what does it look like? What is it that you want to do where you want to be? You know what I'm saying? So, and that's something I had to do. Because another thing that was eye awakening to me in this whole journey, with me losing my mom. My mom worked very hard. She worked 2 and 3 jobs. She got a house and paid it off and all this and everything. But she passed away when she was 60, and all that money from Social Security or from all those years of working, she was so adamant about working. That money goes back to the state.
Right. I think I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, like only person that would get you to Social Security is your spouse.
Do the kids still get it?
No, only if the kid is under 18.
Right. Damn, that's
So
crazy. Right, but again, that's part of the trap, though. That's part of the trap. Like and we actually we brought that up in the beginning, like the retirement age, because again, we don't know what our futures have in store for us.
right,
We don't know like how long we're going to be here on this thing called planet Earth.
right.
So we have to start just being more mindful of those things in regards to how we are living our life on a day-to-day basis, and realize that, are we living the dream that we want, or are we living the dream that they're telling us is the dream we're supposed to be living?
Right. Because my thing is, I think all this stuff that they arguing about, men and women's sports and transgender, is
big distraction.
Let's argue. Let's lower this retirement age. Who's standing for that? Can we retire at 45?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
If you only giving me to 70,
Right.
can we retire at 50? Because that's my trajectory. That's what I'm on track to do. Like, I'm not gonna have to work once I turn 50 years old.
Mm-hmm.
God willing, everything go right. This place don't blow up.
Right.
But that's you have to set goals like that
Mhm.
for yourself and understand that you're fighting against a system that's not in your best interest.
Mhm.
So with that being said, you have to think outside the box.
Yep.
and be a step or two ahead.
Mhm.
And you can't get caught up with the smoking the weed and the low vibration
Yeah.
and the low hanging
Can't get
fruit.
caught up. You can't get caught up on your vices.
Because there's a lot.
Now here's what I've moving forward is, so to your point, how do we get ahead now? Of course, I ain't figured out all the answers to this question, but what I have learned though so far is, again, the first thing the first change or shift or transformation I should say we need to make is transforming from a mindset where we're focused on playing it safe to a mindset where we're focused on taking advantage of opportunities.
Right.
So every time you look at something, ask yourself, is there an opportunity here?
Yeah.
And specifically, is there an opportunity to create value for others?
Mm-hmm.
And that's I think is what I've learned so far is the third step is you gotta shift your mindset from playing it safe to taking advantage of opportunities to create value for others, and then you gotta go put some action behind that by paying attention, having conversations, looking, observing, and identifying what's what. So, like, for example, right now AI is big, but people aren't learning AI. So there's an opportunity right now for someone just to go learn some basic concepts about AI, and then go take with those basic concepts what you can learn on a platform like YouTube, and then taking your knowledge and then leveraging that newfound knowledge you have about AI and taking advantage of the opportunity to now go give that value to people who don't have the time, the energy, or just to know how to learn AI themselves.
And stop being scared, like the book said.
Right. Self-inflicted fear and ignorance. But again, the self-inflicted fear and ignorance, it would be someone in this case on the AI example, for example, just saying it's like, oh, AI is it ain't for me, or oh, don't you got to have a degree to do that, or like oh, don't you got to be smart, or some just dumb excuse in that regards. Like no, all you need is a vision and a shift in your mindset and a willingness to discipline yourself to just create value for others.
Right.
And so one thing that I remember Kevin Samuels used to always say was that as a man, you need to be working 60 hours a week and da 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 da. Now I'm off. You got to work to pay your bills and afford the necessities in life.
Right. Right.
But where I disagree with him on that was your free time. You got to use your free time to learn how to be a value creator, not
Yeah.
necessarily trading your time for more money, because time is a finite asset. We all only have 24 hours in a day, and as Sugar Free says, we all got the same 24 hours as Michael Jackson, but most of us choose to be nobody. So we got to take those. So again, let's just say typically we say we work 8 hours, and we'll just give us an hour on the front and on the back end for travel, getting ready. So that's 10 hours.
Yeah.
So usually we sleep for 8 hours. So we basically got about roughly 8 hours a day of quote unquote free time or opportunity time. Now, again, the traditional playbook tells us go get another job with that 8 hours, get you a part-time job and just save your money. But again, we're still not getting ahead because again, time is still limited. There's only so many hours in a day we can work. But if we take those 8 hours and invest in ourselves by learning new things, expanding our network, developing our knowledge, understanding, and skill set, and then taking that and then going out into the world and trying to create value for people who have a problem that we can solve. And then once we figure out how to do that and then turn that into some sort of business or company, that's how we get ahead.
Right.
Not by just going to work.
Right.
You know what I mean? But so again, to work ourselves out of this situation, we gotta create value. We gotta start thinking in value, not just thinking and trading time for dollars. Because the more we stay in, because that's part of the trap, trading your time for dollars. Because again, there's only so many hours in a day that you have to trade for dollars.
And you know what else is paramount? Who you surround yourself around.
That's the most important part.
You just can't be around the weed heads and the homies, and it's like
even if you smoke it or if you sniff it, you can't be around it all the time. Another clip.
Yeah, I think we got another clip. A good one too.
Okay.
I think the only option is not working within the system. Stop doing the thing that everybody told us to do when we were young, which is go to university, burn 4 years, and let's call it on the low end, $50,000 in debt that you can never get rid of for a job that pays basically minimum wage at $30,000 to $40,000 a year after you spent $50,000 to get it. Then go and try to climb a corporate ladder where people get 3% raises on average. Try to buy a house, but you really can't, because if you don't have a W-2 job, then it's really hard to get a loan. If you do have a W-2 job, you probably don't make enough income to get it. And so we have to, as young people, we got to say no. Like, I'm not doing it this way. Become financially independent and intelligent so that you can become the financial institution. Don't go work at a corporate job for somebody else for 3% wages each year. Become more valuable, negotiate your salary. If there's no upside, leave and go somewhere else. And don't rely on traditional university degrees, because they don't teach you business. The best way to learn about business is being in business.
I mean,
she was
cooking.
She was cooking. She basically said everything we've said so far.
Everything.
So I know a lot of y'all don't want to believe, but maybe somebody
but maybe she can articulate it a little better. I know I get a little tongue tied, a little muck mouth,
but she basically just said the same thing we've been telling y'all. So
there you have it.
Move accordingly. But as she said though, like we, as an individual, you have to start thinking for yourself. You have to start dreaming for yourself. You gotta stop buying into this universal playbook of quote unquote traditional success, because we are moving beyond that. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like our phones and our computers. We get software updates all the time. But when was the last time we had a software update for, how we go about education? How we go about our finances.
And that's the issue that they're finding in this Doge thing.
And the playbook, right? Yeah. Right now on that point, like exactly.
Things aren't being updated. Like our power grid is still antiquated. the operating systems that they use to cut checks and delegate the money and resources is antiquated.
Everything is antiquated.
Yeah. So
So it's like we're trying to create a better future off antiquated concepts and ideals that were created for an environment that no longer exists. So yeah, there was a point in our development where going to college was the route. Where getting a corporate job, it was the route.
I got a college degree.
You know, I got a degree too. I've worked in corporate too, but
Right.
like she was saying, like you're not gonna get ahead by just trading time for money. So thinking that I'm gonna just go to school so I can get a better job, like that's not how you can get ahead. All you're doing is digging yourself into a bigger a debt
A
hole.
better hole.
Yeah, a deeper hole of debt for you to never pull yourself out of.
Mm-hmm.
Now, yeah, you go think that you went from making 30, 40,000 to 50, 70,000, you go feel like you have, leveled up. But the reality is like if they paying you, this is what I realize. If a company can afford to pay me $50,000 a year, that must mean they got to be making at least $5 million off of me.
Exactly. I heard someone break that down. Whatever job is paying you, know that they're making at least 10 times.
And that's all I did was I just came up. I just pulled 10x out of my ass.
Right.
But so if they making 30,000 off of me, they most likely making 3 million off my effort.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we got to start understanding. And that's what she's basically talking about. Like, again, think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you working at a company and it's 10 of y'all that do the job that you do, and y'all all 10 making 50,000, how much are they making off of y'all? 50 million?
You know what? Another reason or another area of money where there's a lot of money. Another industry where you could think like that is television, right?
Mm-hmm.
You think of television and you be like, these people on TV, you on a hit show or something, or even your basic shows that aren't even like hits or whatever. The salaries or the paychecks that some of these people get, or most of the people get, are like astronomical. Like even you could take your reality star that's on, your most popular Real Housewife franchise.
Yeah. Yeah, the Real Housewives, they be getting paid.
They can get anywhere from $100,000 to $1 million an episode.
Mm-hmm. And that's an episode.
An episode.
And they doing at least 10.
That's an episode. So if they're able to give you $1 million an episode, how much money do you think they fucking making? How much you think they getting paid
per episode?
Right. And so that's always something that, with me being a producer and being in production, that was something that always was like kept me wanting to know more or get to that place where, the money is making money, or, I want to be at the top of the food chain. You know what I mean? Because if I could write you $1 million check and you $1 million check,
Exactly.
best believe the check for me got to be at least 100 million.
My thing in life, once I started understanding finances, was I want to be the guy that signs the front of the check, not the back of the check.
That part. I said the same thing too, because I had aspirations when I moved out here to be an actor and all that. And so when I got out here, I was like, once I got into film school and everything, I was like,
the real money is actually not being
it's
on
behind the
screen.
camera.
Yeah.
I said the person in charge, because like myself, a lot of people didn't know what a producer actually does.
Mhm.
Everybody like, what you really don't know what the job of the producer is. And so when I moved out here, that was something that I learned going to film school. Like, I want to be the producer. I want to be the person writing, like you said, and signing the front of the check.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the budget. I'll delegate where the money goes.
Right.
I'll go to the bank.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And if I gotta fire you, I'll fire you. And if I need to bring you on, I can hire you. You know what I'm saying? So that was something that I learned, that it was like more opportunities and more money on the other side of the camera than being in front of the camera. In front of the camera, you're just a pawn.
Yeah.
You're just,
even if they are paying you $1 million,
even if you're getting $1 million episode, you still just a drop in the ocean. You know what I'm saying? And you still a pawn, like I said. So
So I think we got one more clip. We'll actually let's let her just close it out. And
Yeah,
we'll
we're gonna let
roll
her
into the
close
next
it out.
topic because she's about to cook again. So next topic.
You are in poverty because you fell for the okie doke. You are broke because you fell for the okie doke. You fell for the system that they created and manufactured. When I say that you fell for it, because the execution, chef's kiss. You work a job, you go to that job, you clock in, you come home, you feed your kids, you do that shit again all over again. Every single day. Like a damn worker bee that they created you to be from those 12 years in school. Now, I started talking about social institutions in 2022 because I realized that people didn't understand what systems they were literally in. And most of us were placed in them, right? Because if your family doesn't ever move out of poverty, if they don't get out of the poverty mindset and pathologies and habits and ways and perspectives, then you are just going to pass that down from generation to generation. So your children are also going to grow up thinking that they should be broke or they should be poor. They should just work a job or they should just do this. And you want to know the problem with Gen Zs and Gen Alpha? They looked at they millennial ass parents and said, hell no. My son is 17, he's about to be 18. He is not going to college. Now, when I told somebody that, they was like, what do you mean he's not going to college? Because he understands the narrative. I don't want him to go to college. He's going to be the one who opens a Fortune 500 companies and hire your kids to pay to work for him. I know that may sound harsh, but that is who I raised. You're going to ask me, like, why did you raise him? Because I did not want my child to be in the system. I didn't want my children to know exactly what poverty was, what it looked like. Not for real, for real. Like, they had poverty moments, but they've never had a poverty lifestyle. So coming from a person who was homeless December 9th of 2023 to now making, right? And next year is going to be double that, right? Because it has to work out that way. That's just how money works. I know how to multiply it. But coming from poverty, like as an adult, not as a kid, because my mama didn't follow the system. It's probably why I don't follow the system. It's probably why I cannot keep a job to save my damn life, baby, because I'm not meant to work for nobody. My mom was a street pharmacist. Now, you may look at me and be like, well, that's not nothing to brag about. My mom ain't never worked for nobody, and she brought in $3,000 minimum a day. So looking at price tags has never been a norm for me until I got older. But I realized that I couldn't do that because I didn't want to end up incarcerated. Me and my siblings are bound to just not go down that route. But the system is created to keep you into the worker bee space. Like, they want you to be compliant. They do not want you to think outside of the system that they created for you. They want you to think within the system. As long as you are thinking within the system, they can get you to settle for any and everything. And that's why most of you guys are settling. That's why most of you guys are scared to leave your job. That's why I've been there. I'm not saying like I ain't been there. I've been there. Okay, I've been there. I 100% been there. I had a job before, nigga. Like, but when I started to like accidentally, not even accidentally because it was intentional, like intentionally push myself into a different tax bracket, and I was able to get in rooms with other people who were in that same, I noticed that the language was different, the habits were different, the conversations that they were having were different. Everything was different. Like, struggle was not a thing over here like it was over here. What shifted? The shift was I got out of the system. I got out of the system of poverty. So I stopped thinking like people who were broke. I stopped having the habits of people who were broke. And I started to literally take on the habits of people who I began to surround myself around. And when I mean that shit worked, baby, that it worked like a charm. Now, until people understand that poverty was manufactured and it wasn't something that just happened to fall into your lap, they put you there. They put you there. You are there because they wanted you to be there, and they knew that a person like you was gonna fall for it because you did the school system for 12 years and you became compliant and you understood what the American dream was and you fell for the American dream. And the first thing you learn when you cross that poverty line into like the rich or the wealthy, you learn that there is no American dream. There is no Jones's family with a white dog named Bobo and a white fucking picket fence. They never existed. You've been trying to keep up with people that didn't even, like, I went from trying to look rich to actually becoming rich. Do you understand what I'm saying? Not just financially, but mentally, physically, emotionally, right? Like, the more money I made, the more I wanted to be in the gym. The more money I made, the more I wanted to take care of my skin and make sure my hair was always done, or my nails was always, or I look pretty decent. Like, the more money I made, the more I knew that I had, like, and I don't go buy expensive stuff. Like, this shirt is from Five Below, and I got some sweatpants on and some Jordans. That cost me like $180 because I will still wear kids, right? But I started to just, stuff that used to excite me no longer excited me. That's what I'm gonna say. Yeah. And I'm making these videos about the poverty mindset because I want you to understand that if you can just flip that, get your head out first, everything else has to follow. Because if you shift your mindset, your habits are going to change, what you value is going to change, your behavior is going to change. It has to. It has to. How are you going to do this? Get around a group of people who are literally going in the same direction as you. You still trying to hold on to the people who are still in a poverty mindset, the dysfunctional ass patterns and habits and pathologies and eating. You still around them expecting to do something different. You are going, if it's 4 broke people in a room, you will be the 5th. It's called social contagion. Look it up. Social contagion. I'm going to talk about that in my membership. Social contagion. I really want to know. I really want people to understand this. Like, if you can't do anything else, do this for me. You don't have to go to school for psychology, but I want y'all to buy as many psychology books as y'all possibly can. And I want y'all to go through that stuff and read them. And I want you to realize that you fell for the okie doke. And that the life that you are living, if you are in poverty, if you are settling, if you are in a space that you don't want to live in, if you are at a job that you hate, if you don't have the money that you want in your bank account, it is because it is a system that was created to function the way that it is functioning, and you fell for the okie doke. And the only way you're going to get out is if you do the opposite of what you've been doing. Is it going to be uncomfortable? Yes. Can you do it? Yes. I did it. And I had to walk away from a lot of people that I cared about and loved about. And it wasn't that I thought that I was better, but I knew that I was different from that bullshit. Now, my memberships for today and today only, I think today is the last day, everything is half off. You can get in if you want to. My goal is to make you a 6-figure earner. If you do everything I tell you to do, you won't have a problem. But if you decide to get in there and not really do the work, then first off, just don't even come. Don't sign up for nothing I have. Just don't click the blink in the Lio. Just stay in this system. Just stay in the system. But for the people who are tired of being within this social institution called poverty, have a great day. Love you. Bye.